For the first 25 years of her life, Dana Vulin was a stunning, fun-loving blonde who didn't have a care in the world. She was loved by her family, adored by her friends in the prime of her life. Then, in February last year, her life changed forever. She woke to find another woman in her apartment, a woman high on drugs and driven by jealousy. She doused Dana in methylated spirits, set her on fire, and then ran away laughing, all because of the mistaken belief that Dana was having an affair with her husband. With third-degree burns to more than 60% of her body, Dana nearly died. But her spirit didn't burn. This is one of the great stories of survival and strength. Tonight, for the first time, Dana speaks. And please note, while we've been careful in selecting the images in Rani Sadler's story, some people may find some of them confronting.
Describe what she was like before the attack.
Oh, God. Loving, really loving, loyal, fun, completely vulgar, what else can you say? She was always very generous, really generous with the time and effort, money, anything. If you ever needed it, she'd always be there for you. So, yeah.
Oh, my God, Dana.
My name is Dana Vulin, and this is my story.
In Perth, in February last year, 25-year-old Dana Vulin was deliberately set on fire. In seconds, she suffered third-degree burns to 2/3 of her body. She was burnt because she was beautiful. Burnt out of jealousy. Burnt by this woman.
I'm not going to let this burn beat me. I'm not going to let some jealous bitch hater beat me.
Dana is the baby of her family. She has 2 sisters and a twin brother born 11 minutes before her. Mum and Dad, Vera and Don, are immigrants. Mum from Macedonia, Dad from Serbia. Dana was the cheeky one in this close-knit family.
You were always very confident, weren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Describe your personality before the attack.
Confident, outgoing, loud, assertive, fun, very fun. I guess some would call me wild. I don't know. Different.
Tell me about her generosity. What would she do?
She had these big tins, those from the $2 shop that she'd always collect and put a change in, and she'd always make me take him to Princess Margaret Hospital. She had a couple World Vision kids. She's just always been really generous with her time.
You always took great pride in your appearance. Tell me how much work you put into looking good.
I looked immaculate all day, every day. You would never catch me in trackies or joggers. Every little bit of my outfit had to be a little bit different to someone else's, or just a little bit showier or brighter. My makeup was always wow. And I wanted that to be a representation of my personality. But yeah, I did like the way I looked a lot.
You got an awful lot of attention from men, didn't you?
Yes, a lot. I couldn't go down to the local servo without getting hit on. It was the norm.
Looks may have been important to Dana, but she also has brains.
Your mum always stressed the importance of education, didn't she?
She did, yes.
Yeah.
Lots. She didn't have an education growing up in Australia anyway, so she did her absolute best to give us an education.
In 2005, Dana graduated from Edith Cowan University with a Bachelor of Communications, majoring in advertising. Soon after, she started working at the office refurbishment company run by her big sister Svetlana, a mother of 2 young children. Dana is their loving aunt who dreamed of one day having children of her own. But first, she wanted to have some fun. She had 2 sides. The woman with the generous spirit was also a wild child which has led to speculation about why she was attacked.
You weren't burnt in a drug deal gone bad.
Absolutely not.
So
I know
just to
it's not right.
clarify, were you using or dealing?
I was using. Yes, I used drugs and I had drug possessions, and I'm so sorry that I did that. And I regret it, but I did it. It's done. It will never happen again. Me being set on fire had nothing to do with drugs.
Dana says her being set on fire was all about jealousy. A chain of events that began with a chance meeting with another woman's husband here at Perth's Crown Casino. It was 2011, a New Year's Eve party, and for part of the night, Dana chatted with Eden Handanovic, a fitness instructor, also of Macedonian descent. They spoke for about half an hour.
He didn't hit on me. It wasn't sleazy or anything like that.
So you never even kissed him? Nothing?
Nothing.
Happened?
Nothing.
And that night he told you he was divorced?
Yes.
But Eden was lying. He wasn't divorced. He'd only recently separated from his wife Natalia, the mother of their child. Natalia is of Macedonian descent. She and Dana had mutual friends. They'd even met once. So Dana had no reason to suspect that she'd suddenly become Natalia's sworn enemy. Natalia was desperate to reconcile with Eden, and when she discovered he'd been seen talking to Dana on New Year's Eve and later met her a second time, Natalia became enraged.
So when did you first hear from Eden's wife after you met him?
I first heard from her on Australia Day of 2012. Basically, a phone call from her telling me that she was with him, back together with him.
So a bit more than 3 weeks after you'd met Eden?
Yeah.
And what happened then?
Really, really abusive stuff, like calling me an effing slut, telling me I was fucking dead. I don't know who I've just made enemies with. She's going to kill me. She's going to ruin my pretty little face.
In the weeks that followed Australia Day, the phone calls increased, didn't they?
Yes, they got really bad. There were heaps of them. There was heaps.
Tell me about some of the things that you heard.
Things like, we're watching you, gonna ruin your pretty little face.
Luke Richardson is a friend of Dana's. On February 14th, just before returning to work in the mines, he was at her place and witnessed, by his count, around a dozen threatening phone calls. Dana put some of them on speaker so he could hear them.
I said, what's going on? Who was that person? She said it was Natalia. I said, who's that? She said, this girl, he thinks that she slept with her husband or something.
I wasn't doing anything wrong, and I just thought if I could just tell her that nothing was going on, if I could just even explain to her that he didn't even hit on me, that he hasn't even called me, we haven't even seen each other. I just thought if I saw her, I could just explain to her and she'd get it.
I didn't think much of it because it's a girl. I mean, you'd think it more of a male would do something like they did, you know? But, yeah. So I counselled her and just told her that don't stress and nothing's going to happen and don't be paranoid, and, yeah, made her feel good about herself. And, I left that morning. And then that happened to her, and I feel a bit bad about it and kind of pissed off I left.
You've suffered a fair bit of guilt over this, haven't you?
Yeah, a little bit.
Why?
It's just your friend, so... It shouldn't happen to anyone.
Just after 6 a.m, as Dana slept in her ground floor apartment in the Perth suburb of Rivervale, Natalia Dimitrovska and a male accomplice were breaking in.
They jumped the balcony They literally climbed over this wall, over the railing, into my apartment and come in through those back doors.
Natalia had been high on methamphetamine for most of the past 24 hours. The lock on Dana's back door was broken. She woke with a start.
In my house is standing Natalia, and I was like, what are you doing here?
So you woke up, she's in your house?
She's in my house.
On the 16th of February last year, Natalia Dimitrovska, high on drugs and in a jealous rage, broke into Dana Vulin's apartment with a male accomplice. Natalia believed Dana was having an affair with her husband Edin.
So you woke up, she's in your house?
She's in my house. She's like, where is he? And I was like, where's who? She's like, where's Edin? I was, what are you talking about, Natalia? What are you talking about? And I had started to walk to my front door, to open the front door to tell them to get out, basically. But I didn't even get there. Natalia had started to light up. She started to smoke crystal meth in my house. I basically just said, Natalia, get out.
Just get out. Get out right now.
Because the meth lamp has a constantly burning flame, right?
The lamp does, yes. And then she grabbed a methylated spirits bottle and she said, tell me where he is or I'm going to set you on fire. And I said, what for? And then at that point she just twisted the lid off and doused me in methylated spirits. I was engulfed in flames. I cupped my hands on my face and started screaming. And the moment I was on fire, they laughed. They watched me burn, laughed, and ran up my apartment. I was engulfed in flames, like, there's fire everywhere. And
Wait, was the pain overwhelming? Were you in shock, or was it all just so much you didn't know what you were feeling?
the pain was unbelievable.
Dana ran into her kitchen to get water to pour over herself.
I'd put a bucket over me, but what people don't know is with chemical burn, you're constant, but it keeps on burning into your skin. I remember I opened my front door and because it was just so close to me. I was screaming for help. I was like, help me, help me.
I'm trying to ambulance. I'm getting the ambulance.
A neighbour called 000.
The woman burnt. Somebody's burnt herself.
Another neighbour, Dennis Erickson, rushed Dana into her bathroom and under her shower.
I was sitting in the shower and the water was running on top of me and I was screaming like, even though I wasn't on fire anymore, the water, it was just lightly hitting my body. The pressure wasn't so high and it was cold. And every drop felt like it was acid burning into my skin. It was just in so much pain. And it was just like, my head. And I was just screaming because everything was hurting so much. And like, he was great. He was really calm. He spoke to me really nicely.
You tried to comfort her. What were you saying?
I just asked her name, told her that everything would be okay, that we had help coming. Just hang in there. We're going to be right. It won't be long. We'll have help here.
Is she conscious, do we know?
I've seen her. She was screaming. She is conscious, yes.
She's conscious. Is she breathing?
Yes, she is.
Okay.
She's breathing.
The drive from Dana's flat to Royal Perth Hospital takes 4 minutes. The hospital is home to Australia's best burns unit. Victims of the Bali bombing were treated here, but Dana was a whole new challenge.
When you first saw Dana, were you certain she'd survive?
No.
Dr. Suzanne Ray, a burns surgeon, was called out of an operation to go to emergency. Dana was immediately placed in an induced coma. Keeping her infection-free was critical to keeping her alive.
Obviously, one of the major functions of your skin is to protect you from infection. If that skin barrier has been breached or if it's been broken, then the bugs or organisms can actually, within 2 hours, your body becomes contaminated, and within 4 hours, it can actually become, invasive and can be a major problem.
In a coma, covered in bandages and protective gel, Dana's survival was touch and go, and as yet, her family knew none of this. Dana's sister Svetlana was out driving with her husband Phil and their children. She'd just tried to call Dana when a news bulletin came on the radio.
Fire in Rivervale.
And it said that there was a, blonde girl, mid-20s, that was attacked in Rivervale. And I said, Phil, what if that's Dana? She didn't call back. And he goes, no, don't be silly, baby. I was screaming at Phil. She was like, turn this car around, I have to go check. We got to the scene and there was just forensic police everywhere, and I just remember throwing my purse at the police and this is my sister's house. I'm her sister, look at my ID. Where is she?
Where were you when you found out what happened?
I was at the hospital working. I was working that day.
By sheer coincidence, Dana's mum Vera was on duty that day as a nurse's assistant at Royal Perth. It was mid-morning when Svetlana rang and broke the news. Vera raced downstairs to intensive care.
What did she look like?
It's terrible. I didn't even recognise my own child. She was so swollen, she's so big everywhere. If I was not a mother, you wouldn't recognise her. And the way she was in ICU, she's still with her arms, it's open like a Jesus Christ when they put him on the cross. It's really, really bad.
You couldn't believe that someone had done this?
I couldn't believe it. It's a normal human being can do something like that. And because she's so beautiful, I think that's why she suffered these days.
What was the prognosis then?
Let's see if she makes the next 4 hours. That was kind of flowed into. Let's see if she made the next 8 hours. And that went on for I don't know how many days. Doctors were very careful to give us such limited information because burns is such a long, extensive process, and what follows is so horrific. It's an uphill battle she's constantly fighting. There is no relief, there is no good news. She's critically stable.
While Dana struggled for life, police were struggling to make sense of what had happened. With the only person who could tell them lying in a coma, detectives asked Svetlana to make a public appeal.
Our family are living minute to minute. We can't sleep, we can't eat. If you know what happened, you have to come forward and let police finish this.
Good afternoon, Crime Stoppers. Can I help you at all?
Crime Stoppers is fantastic. It really helped us with this investigation. It led us to 3 persons of interest.
Detective Senior Constable David Johnson ran the investigation. Very quickly, his team narrowed the list of suspects to 1, and they had a description.
We were looking for a Caucasian female in her mid-20s and with blonde hair.
And that led them to Natalia Dimitrovska. Police began secretly recording their prime suspect's mobile phone calls. Many were to her husband, Edin.
Do you love me? More than life itself.
In another call, she told Edin she was going to dye her hair from blonde to brunette.
I saw in news they're looking for a woman in her mid-20s, blonde hair. That's a bit stupid. What are you doing? Where I am? Just gonna get my hair done.
A number of the calls were in Macedonian. But investigators got lucky. One of their officers was fluent in the language and was able to instantly translate. Then came their biggest break. 8 days after the attack, Natalia was overheard telling her brother she was on her way to Perth Airport.
Hey. Hey.
She was fleeing the country. First stop Istanbul, final destination Macedonia.
Can you go and speak to Singapore Airlines and tell them that I'm on the way?
Very hectic at that time and urgent to get out to the airport to try and stop her.
Natalia had no idea she was being pursued.
I'm at the airport now. I'm pulling in now. No luggage, nobody run.
She dumped her car and walked quickly towards the terminal where her flight was already boarding. But she was too late. Just moments earlier, David Johnson and his team had arrived.
We noticed her enter. She's walking on the car park side of the airport, glancing at the check-in desks. I've approached her and introduced myself and arrested her under suspicion there.
What was her reaction?
I was very shocked.
Natalia was arrested, handcuffed and led out. With only minutes to spare, police had got their woman.
Compared to all the crimes you've investigated in your career, how does this compare?
This would be the worst one I've investigated.
The most severe?
The most severe and the most horrendous, yes.
Thank you for being the best puppy in the world. Thank you for loving me, no matter how ugly I am or how scarred I am. And for treating me the same, hey? You're the best puppy in the world. I miss you. To be able to explain to anyone, I mean really explain how painful it was being set on fire, is really, truly impossible. There are no words. But as painful and as scary as being set on fire is, the aftermath is a billion times worse.
10 days after being set on fire, Dana Vulin woke from her coma. It was February 26 last year.
I was so broken at this point. I was shattered, like my soul was broken. I could feel it pouring out of every fingertip. I was sad to every fingertip and every ends of my toes, and every fibre of being that I had was sad, and it was broken. It was such a pivotal moment. I remember it so vividly every time I think about it, because it was a moment of clarity that I was well and truly fucked. That it wasn't going to be a miracle case, and that the Dana on the outside was gone. Yeah, I knew I was destroyed at that point, and it was a moment, I guess, of acceptance, because I knew it was that far gone that I had to accept it. Does that make sense?
That you were never going to be the same again?
Yeah, but like, it wasn't just something that was minor, that something that you just can't come back from. My skin can't and won't be able to breathe for the rest of my life, which also means I can't sweat for the rest of my life, causing me to overheat constantly.
How do you feel, sis?
Very bad. Especially Jazz. You know, I had to be honest that I was sometimes worried about the quality of life that the doctors told us to expect, and how someone like my sister, who's fiercely independent, would adapt to that, and if at all she would want to.
My daughter, she'll never be recovered the longer she's live. And it's not only her, we all suffering. But she was suffered the most and went through to the pain, and what she went and what we went, I don't wish that to our worst enemy to go through. Because nobody know what we've been through. Nobody know. Because she have to start walking, learning to walking and talking and everything, and I have to feed her like a baby. She can't scratch herself, and she was so itchy from the burns. Nobody know what we've been through. It's a nightmare.
You spoke to us about some of the maddening aspects of the burns, like the eternal itch.
Oh, don't even get me started on the itch. The itch is a bitch. It's the best way I can say it. Like, I have lost nights and nights of sleep. Like, I couldn't even scratch my own itches. Do you know how annoying that is? I itch all day, every day, and I couldn't even scratch my own. And then I'd try to ask someone, scratch my itch, and I'd get the wrong spot. I was like, just scratch my itch, scratch my itch. Like, it's so annoying. Ah.
1, 2, 4.
What percentage of your body is burned?
I think 64, yeah.
1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2.
64% of your body is burned.
Yeah.
Yet still you keep your optimism.
That bit wasn't burnt. It would have been easier to die, but I've never taken the easy road to anything. So, you know, I could take the path, even now, I could take the path of just not kicking this thing in the face and just, you know, being okay with the burn, but there's only one path I want to take, and it is the hardest, rockiest, biggest mountain you can possibly think of. You could climb over it and then some, and I'm going to take that path. And for me, there's no other road. Yeah, I'm going to make this burn my bitch. I'm going to kick him in the face, and I'm going to rock scars. One day I'm just going to rock them out in my sexy clothes, and look hot with my scarred up body, and just make this work. It is what it is, and you got to own it. I just got to own it.
Why at this point won't take off your mask?
Because as proud as I am of how far I've come, and this one's a hard one. I don't want to be vain, but I was known for my appearance for a while. Like, women would always compliment me on how beautiful my face was. I loved the way I looked. And I'm not ashamed of what happened to me because I can't help it. And I'm proud of how far I've gone, but I'm embarrassed of. I'm not completely used to the way I look yet. I feel really ugly. I know beauty is skin deep. I believe all that. I don't know. Personality shines through. That's all well and good. If you weren't burnt alive and you didn't lose your face.
In the years to come, it's Dana's hope that radical new laser surgery will gradually make her scars disappear. Her recovery is unfinished business, but on Friday, one chapter was closed.
Svetlana, you must be incredibly relieved.
At Perth's district court, a sobbing Natalia Dimitrovska was sentenced to 17 years jail. The woman who gave Dana a life sentence will be eligible for parole in 2027.
I believe she just got the longest sentence for grievous bodily harm with intent in WA's history.
I think me.
She told
Dana 17 years. How do you feel?
I thought on the way here, I said the sentence was irrelevant because I've got to keep on with my life, but I am so overwhelmed. I think the happiness, I haven't felt. I'm shaking and I'm shocked, and Justice did an amazing job. And it's really nice that I legitimately feel personally safe her behind bars. Whoa.
I'm waiting for the screams.
I just
there's nothing. The world's a safer place, and that's a good thing.
Wow. Wow!
There it is. I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming.
Whoa. My name is Dana Vulin, and this is my story.